Hello, everyone. So I wasn't planning to talk about this as an individual video. I was gonna note it down for the next news roundup. But I had people asking me when I was going to make a video for this, and it's been a really busy day. And the stuff that I was planning to finish up for today, I just don't have the time. So let's actually sit and we'll talk about it because there are some talking points that this brings up that didn't come up the last time we talked to GI Joe Transformers Collaborative. This is Bumblebee as a AWE striker. One of the later, well, not later. I'm going through all GI Joe history, but I think it's like a year 3 vehicle. So yeah, Bumblebee himself taking on a much more military green deco. There's a lot of Bumblebee in there. We'll give him credit. It's very blocky. It's a very blocky Bumblebee. I'm used to very round shapes on a Bumblebee, so seeing him this like chunk block is a little bit weird. It's honestly a little bit weird. Um, so what you should see first here is here is the actual vehicle mode. It's all CG render. These are not like prototype images just yet, but you can see the intention here. Uh, yeah, it's not like a proper Jeep. It's more like a dune buggy, like a beachcomber would be, but it's Bumblebee. So I guess like GI Joe size wise is about as like close to like a small scale vehicle as they could pick and still make it into Bumblebee. I'm assuming that's what happened here. What I like about this is if you take a look at the vehicle and then jump back to the robot mode, you can see there's a lot more transformation integration into Bumblebee than there was with Megatron. I'll give you a reminder. When we took a look at Megatron as a HISS tank, what immediately stands out is how focused they were on getting his G1 robot mode in there as much as possible. As a result, the robot mode, the look of it anyway, is as uncompromised as they could possibly get. The downside to this and the flip of this is the fact that the HISS tank itself is mostly comprised of shell components hanging off of him. So you can see just in the back there, the front end is just hanging off the back of his shoulders, off the back of his back, actually, off his sides of his legs. You can see there just like how like spread out all of the junk is in order to make that HISS tank, and it's very much a case of the kibble wrapping around the robot. You kind of get. I was trying to find a decent vehicle mode shot. I guess that's it. But yeah, it's very much a case of just the vehicle mode wrapping around the folded up robot in order to create the vehicle. Jump back to Bumblebee here, and you can definitely see a lot more of the integration and the transformation. The legs are not shell whatsoever. They did not attempt to make Bumblebee's legs at all. It is just, a kind of a beachcomber-esque transformation, honestly. And yeah, they actually worked Bumblebee into the vehicle itself rather than try to make a shell out of it, which I actually prefer structure-wise. Transformation-wise, he seems like he's going to feel much more like a proper Transformer. Everything else does get a little bit weird. He does still have a ton of stuff hanging off of him. You can see the roll bars hanging off of his back. He's got these massive wheels on the shoulders and the sides of the knees. And it's not the ones on the shoulders that bug me. It's the one on the sides of the knees, because you can definitely tell from the posing they're doing that that's going to interfere with just like standard articulation. Okay, it's only a couple shots, but you can see where it's definitely going to be in the way. I don't know how else you'd handle the giant wheels. I guess on a standard transformer, they would tuck into the legs or like form under them to be like the back end of the feet, something like that. I don't know. There is a thing to these GI Joe crossovers, the two that we've seen so far, where it does seem like because of the scale, to make a transformer that functions as a 3 3/4 inch vehicle, they do have to hollow it out a lot and simplify it a lot. You can see on Bumblebee where his forearms are completely hollowed here. And we saw it on Megatron where he does have quite a few hollowed out areas in order for the sake of getting him to be as big as possible and still accomplish the transformation into a 3 3/4 inch vehicle. So I understand that these are fairly large and have to do quite a bit in order to accomplish what they are doing here. But it's still not, I don't know, it's just not clean. He's got these bulkhead fins in the back thing. He's got the antenna sticking up out of his back. It's a really weird look for a bumblebee. I'm not gonna lie. The olive green and yellow is just a weird color combination. Um, like I said, I appreciate how much better he transforms. But this is kind of the flip side of what Megatron was, where Megatron sacrificed his ability as a transformer to look as good as possible. Bumblebee sacrifices his robot mode look to function better as a transformer. So I do appreciate that there's two different flavors to these collaborative G.I. Joe toys. I just wish it was smoother. So I've cycled through all the pictures so far. You can see he comes with Sergeant Stalker from the original cast, of like the original wave of Real American Hero figures. I'm not sure it's great casting. There's something in my head says maybe like a more prominent Joe, a Scarlet, or a Roadblock would have been a better pick. Not a bad pick, but just I could pick characters I would rather have. I'm kind of wondering what happened to Crankshaft, because that's the Joe that was originally packed in with the Striker. And something else that someone else pointed out to me, if we look at Megatron again, if I can find the Megatron shot. So one of the big advantages to him is that there is a spot for Baroness to sit on the back and pilot the turret. So there's actual integration between the two characters in the robot mode. I don't think Megatron would ever let a human arm and handle any of his weaponry, but there you go. We look on Bumblebee and it looks like the same thing is happening here, but if you pay attention here, Stryker doesn't have a spot to sit. He's just kind of standing beside the gun. And the gun itself, if we look at the other shots, doesn't really have any spot for a human character to hold on to it. So it's not really acting as a turret. So the interactivity between the two is actually reduced from what Baroness and Megatron had. It's a smaller price point figure, to be fair. I think this one is at least 25 bucks cheaper than Megatron and Baroness in the US. So at the very least, it's at a price point where I'm not really expecting it to do like grand things. Now, this did raise a question because what we're seeing here is very Dune Buggy-esque. It's also a little Jeep-esque. So a lot of people just start wondering where certain characters are. I've had people asking me, like, I wish they'd do it with Hound. Like, because isn't that the logical one? The military Jeep becomes a G.I. Joe Jeep. Doesn't that actually make sense? And G.I. Joe has that. It's called the Vamp. It kind of, that actually looks like Universe 2 Hound if I'm looking at it. I think Hound is too on the nose. At that point, you're not really making a crossover figure. You're just making a bigger Hound that has a G.I. Joe logo on it somewhere. I feel like if you're doing this collaborative series, it is best to go with big characters and well-known vehicles. Now, the Striker's not... This is not the most well-known of vehicles, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Also, I have been messing up the name because it's Striker and Stalker. Stalker is the G.I. Joe coming with this. So I do apologize to the G.I. Joe fans out there who already went to the comics section going, you got the name wrong. You got the name wrong. I'm sorry. They're two similar names. I got them switched. I apologize. Okay, so Stalker and the Striker and the Bumblebee. And everything else looks fine. You got the packaging that still looks really cool. I still like this like divide between the G1 style and the Joe style. Yeah, he looks fine. And in the vehicle mode, yeah, he's just spot on a G.I. Joe vehicle. So going back to the Hound thing, someone said it'd be fine if this was Brawn. And actually, yeah, with a little bit of color change and a different head, it'd basically just be Brawn. But again, the way Hasbro is handling this, makes me feel like we're not going to get much out of this line. Because you come out with Megatron, who's obvious for a G.I. Joe vehicle, and Bumblebee, who, let's be honest, it's his brand now. Transformers is Bumblebee more so than it is even Optimus Prime now. So I understand that. I get it. Bumblebee's got to be in there. But I feel like characters that would make more sense as these vehicles, like I think Soundwave would make more sense as the Hiss tank. I feel like, or Shockwave would make more sense. I feel like their body types could conform better to the shape and actually integrate better with the vehicle mode, rather, instead of what Megatron did. Um, and yeah, I think Hound would just be an easy one to do. I get the feeling that if this line was something designed to go on for a while, the way Alternators was, then they would take shots with other characters and not have to rely on the big name characters. So there's no Optimus and there's no Starscream in this line. They start with these big characters, which makes me feel like that's probably all we're going to get. You know, maybe these get remolded or repainted down the line, but beyond that, I really don't see them doing anything else. Or else you probably would see Hound and Brawn and Soundwave. Also, it does strike me weird that we do a Megatron, but we don't do an Optimus Prime, right? Now, we look at G.I. Joe's vehicles. The APC is just screaming at me if you're doing an Optimus Prime. That canopy could hide all of his red and yellow and blue parts. But this would be a huge vehicle. This would be like a HasLab thing or like a Christmas level item. So I'm not really shocked that they didn't go that route. But the potential is there. There's plenty of G.I. Joe vehicles. Like I was looking through yojoe.com, just kind of like browsing what vehicles would work. Here's the Mauler tank that would make a decent warpath. He'd just be a little bit pale. You know, there's the Striker. So 1985 vehicle, get that correct. This little armadillo would have made a good Brawn, since it's a tiny vehicle. The Snowcat, can't even think of a Transformer that would fit the Snowcat. But you know what? It is what it is. So, I kind of understand. It's still weird that we're getting no Prime. I don't know. I just feel like the choices that Hasbro's making here kind of shows like where the plan is for the toy line. I would love for this to just be a thing, and hopefully it's successful enough and it does become a thing. Yeah, because like you can say, you could just go on forever. There's just so many different vehicles that GI Joe did. You imagine that this series is popular enough and goes on long enough that we actually see Flag as Broadside. You just have this like 3 foot tall hollowed out robot in your in your room, just waiting to unfold into a 7 foot carrier. But like, it leaves you wondering about the possibilities, but at the same time, like, I really don't think we're going to get there. So let's enjoy for what we have. We have Megatron, who's very Transformer and kind of a G.I. Joe vehicle. And then Bumblebee, who's very much in a G.I. Joe vehicle and is trying really hard to still show himself. I'm still of the mindset that it should have stuck to some really iconic G.I. Joe vehicles like the Hiss tank that you could get away with doing in different colors and it would still ring out as that's a Hiss tank. I think Soundwave would have been perfect. A dark blue Hiss tank, I could see that. I don't know if I could see a yellow Striker, but I wish they would have tried it. I would have rather than like straight up GI Joe vehicles, I would have rather had the Transformer twist on them because it does strike me as weird that these characters are partially the wrong color. So those are my thoughts here. I don't want to go too long on this because we touched a lot of this when we talked about Megatron, but I just feel like with this announcement, it's kind of telling what the line is going to be and what we can expect from it from now on, which honestly I don't think is going to be a whole lot. It just doesn't seem like it just seems like Hasbro is hitting the big names it needs to hit and getting out rather than drawing this out into something that would be a feasible line. Otherwise, you'd get by on the novelty of GI Joe Transformers and just make whatever character you wanted and save the big characters for later after the initial like hype and interest has died down. Does that make sense? So you start off with the Vamp and you do a GI Joe Hound. And that's easy. And everyone gets super excited. Here's a G.I. Joe vehicle that transforms into a Transformer I know. And then, like, you get 3 or 4 releases in, and people, it slows down. It slows down a little bit. Then you announce that Optimus Prime is going to be an APC. Then you announce that Starscream is going to be a Rattler, right? So, things like that, Make, like, you save the big characters and the big vehicles to kind of like go, oh, I am in now. So, that's my thought. That's my thought. I just wanted that out there in the world. I feel like we're not going to get as much as we hope for. I'm happy we got anything, because how long have we been asking for this to happen? So we'll see how these turn out. We'll see how these turn out. It's an expensive figure for what it is, but it is also kind of a historic figure if you're an 80s toy buff. So we'll see how it turns out. Thank you guys for watching. Leave comments in the description. Let me know. Leave comments below. Let me know what you think. Is Bumblebee appealing? Is Bumblebee more appealing or less appealing than Megatron? Because he's more Transformer-ish, but he's also less of his own character. So it's an interesting twist on it. Let me know what you think. I'm genuinely curious about this one, and I'll see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.